Well, hello and welcome to the Tao Manifesting Tarot, the most innovative tarot reading on the internet, maybe anywhere for all that matter. Today's theme is lower the stress, increasing your focus. The idea is breathe, okay? Basically, breathe. Breathing is probably the most essential thing that we need to do. Yeah, we need to have water. Yes, we need to have food. But breathing is something that is immediate and mandatory. You could maybe hold your breath. Most people realistically could hold their breath maybe a minute, maybe a minute and a half. But at that point, they'd have to breathe again. Why? Oxygen coming into the body. And the chemistry is that when you have an oxygen molecule with hydrogen molecules, you get life. So, yeah, you might go a minute and a half. Let's say really you're in really good shape. Maybe you go 2 minutes on a single breath. You can go 2, 3 days without water. You can do 2, 3 weeks easily without food. But breathing, that's essential, that's immediate. And in fact, the better we breathe, the calmer we are. There are systems in us. One is called sympathetic, that's the fight or flight, stressed. And the parasympathetic, which is very mellow, very meditative. And so the fact of the matter is that when you breathe properly, your chemistry is balanced. You are calm, you're relaxed. So when I say lower your stress, you literally increase your focus. In fact, they've proven several studies over many years that the better you breathe, the smarter you are, the better you think, the more clearly you think. You get somebody who's stressed, they couldn't find their ass with both hands. It's just you're too charged. Take a breath, balance your system, mellow out, and you lower the stress at the same time increasing your focus. Breathing, it's something that simple, but it is the key to unlocking today's manifesting tarot frequency. And speaking of that, the idea of this tarot reading is extremely simple. It's very clear, it's very direct. It gives you a powerful, accurate tarot tool that you can use. There are frequencies of all kinds coming at us all the time. And so when you're doing this tarot frequency thing with me, we make sure that you really have a chance to lower your stress, increase your focus. Because what we do is take the information and make it touchable. You can go to somebody. I've done tarot for over 20 years, and in the 20 years I found it really didn't do anything. That's my experience. However, what I did discover was that tarot was not here to predict. Tarot is here to talk about your potential. It's a frequency, it's an energy, and we know that everything is energy. Ultimately, it's all frequency. So the question is, how do you tune in to your tarot frequency in a strong and powerful way? Well, you lower your stress. You increase your focus, and I try to help. I try to make that energy touchable. There's no fantasy stuff, no unicorns, no rainbows, no wah wah. No, we don't do any of that stuff. It's the matrix in your life revealed because tarot is manifesting. Manifesting is human kryptonite, and tarot is the science of your potential for that tarot transmutation. And so I go about it in one of two ways because it's not simply a question of here's the frequency, you can do with it whatever you want. No, here's the frequency, and we give you background information in one of two ways. One, I do something called astrologic, where I use astrology and numerology. I've done astrology and numerology for over 50 years. They're the science of cycles within cycles within cycles within cycles, so on. And that's the reason history repeats, is because those energetic cycles that we see in astrology and numerology, they keep repeating, keep repeating, keep repeating, keep repeating. And so we see a similarity. If this happened back at the beginning of cycle and we come back to the cycle again, we're going to get the same energy. It's not going to show up the same way, but we're going to get the same energy. And then if we move from that position to the next position, next time that those planets come together, we got the same frequency, but again, not the same exact circumstances. However, you can recognize the energy. And that's what takes your tarot energy to the next level. You go, oh, okay, I see the potential. I see what the message is. This is how I can apply it. I've learned from the past. So astrologic is one way I do it. The other way is something called moments and times. They're key stories in the news now that carry that same kind of essence or message. The idea is not to be strictly logical. Here's your tarot frequency. It's to be logical and then make an emotional connection. This is what it feels like. This is what it looks like. It has to be a complete experience. So it's either going to be astrologic with astrology, numerology, or moments in time where I pick stories that carry the flavor without using necessarily astrology or numerology, both of which I can do. The idea is to get the message to you in a way that is tangible, that is real. Okay, the idea is to give you the tarot frequency and the appropriate background to utilize that manifested energy to your advantage. Remember, that's the whole point, is to transmute that energy into something useful in your life. So knowing the repetitive patterns, one way or another, you not only know the energetic destination, but you know what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like. We will take you there. Now apply this tarot energy. All right. We got to keep that spiritual kryptonite strong and vital. And I'm going to begin with that evolutionary message in a minute, but I just want to take this opportunity to remind you I do have an email, singular email, tau-tarot at proton.me. Tau-tarot at proton.me. Feel free. Yes, no, up, down, don't have to be polite. You can be whatever you want to be. It's just a simple way that I extend myself for communication, and I'm pretty good at getting back. Haven't been so good in the past, but, 24, 48 hours I usually get back. Tau-tarot at proton.me. Okay, so before I get into today's moments in time, we take a look at some stories from the current era. Just want to kind of take you back a little bit, kind of a step back in terms of the astrological energy, just so that you understand what I'm trying to do with this tarot reading. Okay, so it's the tarot frequency, but knowing how to use it effectively. For example, you see on the screen here the American Revolution, the American Civil War. With the American Revolution, the planets Pluto and Uranus were in the same position, a specific spot in the sky. They now have come back. In fact, it takes Pluto 250 years to go around our solar system once. So, about a year or so ago, Pluto and Uranus hit. That energy, the combine those two, is evolving into something better. And it usually happens pretty quickly. And with the American Revolution, we were uniting as a country. But now you go to the American Civil War, Uranus is involved again, but this time it's Neptune. Neptune is mysterious. Neptune is illusion, delusion, confusion, maybe inspiration. We never know. But very often, Neptune dissolves. It disintegrates into something worse before it has a chance to get better. It dissolves. So the energies are there, and guess what? Pluto, Uranus from the American Revolution are in the same spot they were 250 years ago. And Neptune and Uranus from the Civil War are back in the same spot they were in 1860. And what are we facing? Not just the world, but in America. A revolution and a civil war simultaneously. Combining those two tells you exactly right to a T where we are at as a country. So let's step ahead and let's go to the moments in time. Some current information from 2025. David Wolf, longtime health advocate, says, isn't it odd that food without pesticides is more expensive? Well, of course, it costs more to buy the poison, we understand. Food with less ingredients, more expensive. Foods that uh, aren't healthy are more expensive. He says, it's almost like they want us sick. Really? Get that same feeling. Speaking of food, 100 years ago, organic food was just food. There was no such thing as organic. It was grass fed beef, pasture raised eggs, milk, raw, unpasteurized, which, by the way, is very good. If you've never had it before, I know a lot of people go, hey, I can't. You have never tried it. I worked at a radio station years ago out in California, and I went to the Central Valley. There was a farm there selling raw milk. Man, it was good. Man, it was good. Creamy, rich, thick, and extremely healthy. Going back to what David Wolf said, if it's good for you, it costs more. If it's poison, it costs less. What's the deal? And there's some great information from a guy by the name of Dr. Ray Nichols. We're told that babies are too fragile. You can't feed them honey. You can't feed them raw milk. You got to do certain teas. You got to take care of this, that, and the other thing. But at the same time, however, they're being injected with all kinds of stuff, all kinds of vaccine stuff, including hepatitis B, a disease that's primarily spread by IV use or sex. We're talking about a baby. And of course, there's all the chemicals in there, aluminum and polysorbate 80 and God knows what the hell else. Which is why now that you understand, if indeed they are trying to kill us, and they are, they've said so. Look at the Georgia Guidestones, look at Bill Gates, take a look at Klaus Schwab, any number of people have said, this is it. Either you conform or you're dead. This is why they're after the farmers. This is why they're stealing the farms across the world. Because the farmers feed us, the farmers give us independence. Give me shelter, give me good organic food, I can have a life. I may not have all the electronic stuff, but really, when you get right down to it, who cares? If I'm healthy, if I'm comfortable in my lodging, have plenty to eat, and hopefully a few people who like me and or love me, I got a pretty good life, which is exactly what they're working to keep us from. Because you can't have that. In fact, they've said point blank, you're going to have nothing and you're going to be happy. How about the meme of the day? There's a big long thing here about the tax trap. All has to do with the Fed, the Zionist Jewish bankers who stole America. In 1913, they got the Fed. Talk more about it later on down the road. I've mentioned it before. But that's when America was bought. Oh, no, you didn't hear about it. Nobody said there's no bill of sale. But 1913 was when they formed the Fed. However, they had to sink the Titanic because there were four very, 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 very rich people who objected to having a private bank, like the Bank of England, which is the connection between the England and the United States, the Bank of England and the Fed, same thing. And so because those people stood in the way, people like J.P. Morgan and Rothschilds and others said, well, let's sink the Titanic. Load them on the Titanic, think they're going to get a trip across the ocean, and we'll sink it, and it's over. It was over. 1913, we got the Fed, we got the IRS, we got women working, more taxes, we got World War I. Man, we got the shitload. And again, no bill of sale. But we've come to the point where we're beginning to see it's all bullshit. They were going to show us what's at Fort Knox, supposed to be all that gold. Never heard anything about it, did we? Kind of like the Epstein files and other things that oh, yeah, we're going to tell you. Yeah, we're going to tell you. You never hear anything. I voted for the current administration because I thought there was no option. Come to find out, there never was an option. George Carlin was right. Great line from Socrates. Smart people learn from everything and everyone. Average people, from their experience, stupid people, they already know the answers. So the stupid people are the ones that you always hear. Oh, I got it. Oh, man, oof, I know it all. Socrates says something very different. Smart people learn from everything and everyone. When are we going to learn? Let's go to the missing link. Here is something that many people who look at this Tarot podcast are going to be pissed off about. But it's an interesting piece of information. It has to do with George Orwell, 1984. If you're familiar with the book, meaning that someone didn't read it to you, you actually read it yourself. In 1984, George Orwell said that the tyrants weaponized women. Quote, it was always the women, and above all the young ones, who were most bigoted. They followed the party. They were adherents to the party line. Whatever the party said, they bought. Today, propaganda sells obedience as empathy. They call it compassion, but it's really control. And the question is the state trying to replace men as society's provider? We are feminized, no question about it. And you take a look at what's going on with our fertility stuff. Women, fertility dropped 60% just in the past decade or two. Men, sperm count dropped 60%, a little bit less, about 55 in the same time period. What's going on? You wonder why all there's this transgender stuff? Well, because it looks like George Orwell was right. They are feminizing us. And the worst of the bunch is the young women. Women, under the best of circumstances, are problematic because they're all emotion. Yes, there are some exceptions, but it's 20% or less of the women who fit that category. 80% emotional all over the place. They can't even make up their own minds as to what they want. If I had a dime for every time my wife go out for dinner and she asks me what should I have, and then when I make the suggestion she goes, "No, I don't like that." Well, then what the hell are you asking me for? So Orwell might have been onto something. Certainly with the young women, they are easily led and they don't even realize it. Let's go to the tarot. Knight of Pentacles. Knights always bring gifts. The Pentacles are value system. What this tarot energy is saying, it's time to look at your value system. What's really important? Is it practical? Is it realistic? Or do you need more cars, more homes, more this, more that? Or how about a little friendship, love, kindness, joy, peace? How about your health? Huh? That would be pretty good. How about one more? How about time? I don't care how rich you are, you can't buy more time. Would you like a little more time? Next card is the Empress card. It talks about fertility and abundance, and we're not just talking about sexual stuff. We're talking about abundance, the possibility of growing. Well, if you're going to change your value system with the Knight of Pentacles, become more practical, become more realistic, become more responsible, yeah, abundance is around the corner. Because right now, the way the system's set up, you can't be abundant. And how about this? Ten of Cups, final card. Talks about happiness and commitment. The home card, hey, we got the connection. Well, if you have a good value system that is practical, that is realistic, that allows for abundance on all levels in your life, I mean, forget the more things. How about, again, closer relationships, more supportive relationships? Not just with others, but with yourself. Give yourself a break. You put those things together and you got the Ten of Cups. You have happiness and contentment where it starts within us, ourselves. If you're looking for it on the outside, you ain't never going to find it, Bubba. You ain't never going to find it. That's the tarot energy. That's what allows you to transmute your life. Grab onto it with both hands. Time is up for today. Thank you very much. I realize when you come here, it is an investment of one kind or another. I thank you and appreciate it very much. Do not take it for granted. Like and subscribe, please. Lots going on in the world today. A lot of it behind the scenes, but boy, they're pushing hard. Like and subscribe. I will appreciate it. Between now and the next time you and I get to do tarot together, peace and blessings.